I answered the call at 0247 and the conductor's voice was calm, professional, asking for clearance on Track 9. But Track 9 had been dark for 3 years. I've been dispatching trains for the Metro Transit Authority for 11 years. The night shift is quiet, methodical. You monitor the board, log communications, coordinate movements across 43 miles of underground track. There's a rhythm to it, predictable, controlled. I preferred it that way. The control room sits 3 levels beneath street access, insulated by concrete and the constant hum of ventilation systems. My station faces a wall of monitors displaying live feeds from platforms, tunnels, and signal junctions. To my left, the radio console. To my right, the digital scheduling board. Everything is documented. Everything is accounted for. It started on a Tuesday. At 0247, my headset clicked with an incoming transmission. Standard protocol. I acknowledged and waited for identification. Dispatch, this is train 4521, requesting clearance for Track 9 southbound. The voice was calm, professional, male, middle-aged. The kind of voice you hear 1,000 times and never remember. I pulled up the active roster. Train 4521 wasn't listed. Track 9 southbound had been decommissioned in 2021 after a structural assessment deemed the tunnel unstable. No trains ran that route anymore. Train 4521, please repeat your designation and current location. Static filled the line for 3 seconds, then the same voice unchanged. Train 4521, Track 9 southbound, awaiting clearance. I checked the CCTV feeds for Track 9. The platform was dark, the tunnel entrance sealed with barrier gates and caution tape. No train, no lights, no movement. 4521, I have no visual confirmation of your position. Please provide manual GPS coordinates. The line went silent except for a low, rhythmic hum. Like interference, but steady, almost like breathing. Then the transmission ended. I logged the incident as a possible radio malfunction and moved on. Night shifts attract strange glitches. Equipment ages, signals cross, old recordings loop through outdated channels. I'd heard phantom chatter before. But the next night, at exactly 0247, the call came again. Dispatch, this is train 4521, requesting clearance for Track 9 southbound. Same voice, same cadence, same timestamp. I checked the logs. My report from the previous night was filed and closed. I ran a diagnostic on the communication system. No faults detected. The signal was clean, the channel secure. Train 4521, you are not on the active schedule. Identify your operator and origin station. Static. The hum. Then at train 4521, Track 9 southbound. Awaiting clearance. I switched to the backup channel and contacted the depot supervisor. He confirmed no trains were assigned to Track 9. No conductors were scheduled under that designation. He suggested I file a secondary malfunction report. I did, but I kept the channel open. The calls continued. Every night, same time, same message. I began to anticipate them. At 0245, I'd pull up the Track 9 feeds, check the sealed tunnel entrance, confirm the emptiness. At 0247, the transmission would come through calm and patient, requesting clearance for a train that didn't exist. I stopped reporting it after the first week. The diagnostics showed nothing. The depot had no record of the designation, and yet the voice was consistent, clear, and impossibly precise. On the 9th night, I tried something different. At 0247, when the call came through, I responded immediately. Train 4521, clearance granted. Proceed to Track 9 southbound. Silence. The hum intensified, layering into something almost harmonic. Then the voice returned, but softer, almost relieved. Acknowledged dispatch proceeding. The line went dead. I watched the Track 9 feed. The platform remained dark. The tunnel sealed, but on the scheduling board, a new entry appeared. Train 4521, Track 9 southbound. Departure logged at 2:48. I didn't enter that. The system auto-generates entries based on dispatch clearance and train movement sensors. But there was no train, no sensors, no movement. I pulled the archived schedules, searching for historical records of Train 4521. I found it buried in the 2019 logs. A late-night southbound route, Track 9 regular service. The final entry was dated March 14, 2019 at 0251. Status, signal lost, last known position 1.7 miles into the tunnel. Recovery operation suspended after 3 days. Cause undetermined. No bodies recovered. No wreckage found. The train simply vanished into the tunnel and never emerged. I read the incident report 3 times. The conductor's name was listed, Michael Aldrich, 46 years old, 19 years of service, described as reliable, calm, methodical. The next night I didn't grant clearance. At 02:47 the call came through. Dispatch, this is train 4521 requesting clearance for track 9 southbound. I said nothing. The hum filled my headset, rhythmic and patient. The voice repeated, train 4521 track 9 southbound, awaiting clearance. I disconnected the channel, but the hum didn't stop. It bled through the backup frequencies, the emergency line, even the PA system in the control room, low and steady, like something breathing just out of phase with reality. I looked at the scheduling board. Train 4521 was listed again, blinking red, awaiting clearance. I haven't stopped answering since. Every night at 02:47, I grant clearance. The voice acknowledges. The train logs a departure, and the track 9 feed remains empty, the tunnel dark, the hum persistent. I don't know if I'm dispatching a train or maintaining a loop. I don't know if Michael Aldrich is still out there waiting for permission to finish a route that ended 6 years ago, but I know what happens if I don't answer. The hum grows louder. The scheduling board fills with phantom entries, and sometimes in the static between transmissions I hear other voices, older, fainter, asking for clearance on routes I've never heard of. The system is vast, older than anyone admits. Some lines were buried and forgotten. Some trains never made it home, and somewhere beneath the city in a tunnel no one uses anymore, something keeps calling. I keep the line open. I keep granting clearance because some trains don't stop running just because you've sealed the tracks. I heard my own voice giving clearance to a train I hadn't dispatched yet, 3 seconds before I said the words myself. The Transit Authority monitors 7 lines simultaneously from a central control hub. Each line feeds into a dedicated channel, staggered by frequency to avoid crosstalk. Audio is logged, time-stamped, and archived for review. The system is designed to be airtight. Signals don't overlap. Channels don't bleed, but on November 9th they did. I was monitoring Line 4 and Line 6, routine evening traffic, no delays, no incidents. At 1934, I cleared train 6108 for departure from Westbrook Station. Standard transmission. I logged it and moved on. Then 3 seconds later, I heard my own voice in my headset. Train 6108 cleared for departure Westbrook Station. Same words. Same inflection. But quieter, muffled, like it was coming from another room. I checked the audio log. My transmission was recorded at 1934-17. The echo wasn't listed. I ran a diagnostic on line 6. No faults. No feedback. No secondary signals. I dismissed it as fatigue. 11-hour shifts blur perception. But 20 minutes later, it happened again. I cleared train 4502 for track 2. Then, 3 seconds later, my voice repeated the clearance, not as an echo, but as a separate transmission, slightly distorted, like it had traveled through static. This time, I isolated the channel and boosted the gain. Behind the echo, I heard ambient noise, the hum of monitors, the rustle of fabric, the faint beep of a scheduling board. The same sounds that filled my control room, but there was something else. A subtle lag, like the sounds were displaced by a fraction of a second, not quite synchronized. I contacted the systems technician, Calvin Grant. He ran a full scan of the communication array. No anomalies, no crosstalk. No external interference, could be a relay loop, he suggested. Sometimes old cables pick up residual signals and bounce them back. I'll schedule a maintenance check. But maintenance didn't explain why the echo was always my voice. Not other dispatchers, not automated announcements. Just me. Over the next week, the echoes became more frequent. Every transmission I made was followed 3 seconds later by a duplicate, slightly older, slightly worn, like a recording that had degraded over time. I started varying my speech patterns, testing the delay. If I paused mid-sentence, the echo paused too, but the timing never shifted. Always 3 seconds. On November 16th, I tried something different. At 2012, I keyed the Line 4 channel and said nothing. I waited in silence, listening. 3 seconds later, my voice came through the headset. Train 4407 cleared for departure Millbrook Station. But I hadn't said anything. I hadn't cleared any train. I checked the scheduling board. Train 4407 was listed as cleared at 2012. Departure logged and confirmed. The system had registered a transmission I never made. I pulled the audio archive. My voice was recorded clear and authoritative, giving clearance to a train I'd never acknowledged. I replayed it 3 times. It was my voice, my cadence, my phrasing, but I hadn't spoken. Calvin returned that evening with a signal tracer. We isolated the Line 4 channel and tracked the source of the duplicate transmissions. The signal originated from a secondary relay station located 2.3 miles southeast, near the junction between Line 4 and the old expansion tunnel that was sealed in 1987. That relay shouldn't even be active, Calvin said. We decommissioned it decades ago. But the signal was live, strong, consistent. We accessed the facility remotely and pulled the security feed. The relay room was empty. Rusted equipment, dust-covered consoles, no power supply. But on the audio channel, we heard the ambient hum of an active control room. Calvin suggested we visit the site in person. We descended into the maintenance corridor at 22 hour. The air was cold, stale, tinged with the metallic smell of old wiring. The relay room was located at the end of a service tunnel, behind a door marked decommissioned, no entry. The lock was broken. The door slightly ajar. Inside, the room was intact. Monitors lined the wall, dark and silent. A dispatcher's console sat in the center, covered in dust, but the headset was clean. Recently used. Calvin checked the power supply. There's no active connection. This equipment hasn't been operational in 30 years. But as he spoke, one of the monitors flickered. Static. Then a grainy image resolved. The interior of a control room, identical to mine. Same layout. Same monitors, same scheduling board, and in the center of the frame a figure sat at the console wearing a headset, facing away from the camera. Calvin stepped closer to the screen. That's the central hub. That's your station. The figure on the monitor turned slowly toward the camera. The image was too degraded to see a face, but I recognized the posture, the uniform, the way he adjusted the headset before speaking. It was me. I watched myself on the monitor, giving clearance to trains I hadn't dispatched yet. My voice echoed through the room, 3 seconds ahead of my own thoughts. Calvin disconnected the feed and sealed the room. We left without speaking. Back at the control hub, I reviewed the logs. The timestamps on the echoed transmissions were consistent, 3 seconds ahead of my recorded speech. Not delayed, advanced. I stopped trying to trace the signal. I stopped reporting the echoes. Because every time I speak into the headset now, I hear the other version of myself respond first, older, tired, repeating the same clearances, the same protocols, the same routines. And sometimes, late at night, I hear him pause between transmissions as if he's listening for me. I don't know how long he's been there. I don't know if the relay room is a recording or a window, but I know that somewhere beneath the city, in a control room that shouldn't exist, another dispatcher is monitoring the same lines, clearing the same trains, living 3 seconds ahead of me. And one day, I'll catch up to him, or he'll fall back to me. I've stopped wondering which is worse. The operator radioed in at 0123, voice steady, reporting brake failure in Tunnel 7. But according to the logs, Tunnel 7 had been sealed for 41 years. I've been dispatching for the Metro Transit Authority for 9 years. I know the system. I know the routes. I know which tunnels are active, which are dormant, and which are dead. Tunnel 7 is dead. It was sealed in 1983 after a structural collapse near the old Harmon Street station. The tunnel was deemed unstable, the station permanently closed, and the entire section removed from operational maps. No trains run through Tunnel 7. No maintenance crews access it. No signals transmit from that section. But on January 14th, at 0123, I received a transmission from Train 3804 requesting emergency assistance. Dispatch, this is Operator Whitman. Train 3804. Experiencing brake failure, signal loss, and obstruction ahead. Requesting immediate support. The voice was calm, professional. The kind of voice you trust in a crisis. I pulled up the active roster. Train 3804 was listed as decommissioned in 2019. Operator Whitman wasn't in the current personnel database. Train 3804, Confirm your current location and route. Static filled the line for 5 seconds. Then Whitman's voice returned, slightly strained. Tunnel 7, southbound. Approaching Harmon Street Station. I froze. Harmon Street Station hadn't existed on the active grid for 4 decades. 84. You are not on an active route. Clarify your departure point and authorization. More static. Then, departed Central Terminal at 0047 standard late-night service. I've been trying to reach you for 30 minutes, dispatch. The radios were dead until now. I checked the logs. No trains departed Central Terminal at 047. No authorizations were issued for southbound routes through Tunnel 7, but the signal was live, strong, transmitting from a location that shouldn't have active relay coverage. I contacted the systems technician. He ran a trace on the transmission. The signal originated from Tunnel 7, 1.8 miles southeast of Central Terminal, approximately 400 feet beneath street level. That's impossible, he said. We pulled all the relay equipment from that tunnel in 1985. There's nothing down there to transmit a signal. But the transmission continued. Whitman's voice steady and insistent. Dispatch, I need guidance. The tunnel's narrowing. I can see lights ahead, but there's no station on the map. The brakes aren't responding. I'm decelerating manually. I pulled up the archived blueprints of Tunnel 7. The original route extended 2.4 miles before terminating at Harmon Street Station. After the collapse, the section between miles 1.6 and 2.4 was sealed with concrete barriers and marked as structurally compromised. If Whitman was 1.8 miles in, he was approaching the collapse site. 3804, you need to stop immediately. You are entering a sealed section. Repeat, stop your train now, static. Then a long exhale. I'm trying, dispatch. The brakes are soft. Manual override isn't responding. The train's still moving. I heard it in his voice then, not panic but confusion. The kind of confusion that comes when the world stops making sense. How long have I been down here? He asked. I checked the timestamp on his first transmission, 0123. Current time, 0131. 8 minutes. You've been transmitting for 8 minutes. Silence. Then quietly, that's not right. I've been calling for over an hour. I pulled the communication logs. His first transmission was recorded at 1:23:04. There were no earlier attempts. Whitman, confirm your departure time from Central Terminal. 047, I logged it myself. Standard service, track 5, southbound through Tunnel 7. I accessed the historical schedules. In 1982, Train 3804 was a regular late-night service departing Central Terminal at 0047, running southbound through Tunnel 7 to Harmon Street Station. The route was discontinued in January 1983 after the collapse. The final recorded departure of Train 3804 was January 13, 1983. At 047, operator David Whitman, status signal lost at mile 1.9. Recovery operation initiated January 14th. No train located. No survivors recovered. The line crackled. Dispatch, I can see the lights now. There's a platform ahead. It looks old. The signs say Harmon Street, but I don't remember this station looking like this. Whitman listened to me carefully. You need to stop the train. Do not proceed to the platform. I'm trying. The brakes won't hold. I'm at 15 miles per hour. The platform's coming up fast. I heard the screech of metal, the hiss of hydraulics fighting resistance, then a low rumble, deep and resonant like stone shifting under pressure. Dispatch, the tunnel's collapsing. The ceiling just dropped debris onto the tracks. I can't see ahead anymore. The lights are out. The transmission cut to static. I tried to re-establish contact. 3804, respond. Whitman, do you copy? Nothing. The signal remained active, but no voice came through. Just static, and beneath it a faint rhythmic sound, like wheels on rails, distant and hollow. I contacted the Transit Authority supervisor and reported the incident. He pulled the archived records, confirmed the historical route, and authorized a remote inspection of Tunnel 7 via maintenance drone. The drone was deployed at 0315. It entered the tunnel, through a ventilation shaft and navigated 1.8 miles into the sealed section. The footage showed a narrow passage, crumbling walls, and rusted tracks half buried in debris. At mile 1.9, the drone's camera captured the remains of the collapse site, a massive fall of concrete and steel that had sealed the tunnel completely. No train, no wreckage, no sign of recent disturbance, but on the audio feed, beneath the drone's motor noise, we heard it. A faint transmission, looping every 2 minutes. Dispatch, this is Operator Whitman, Train 3804. Experiencing brake failure, signal loss, and obstruction ahead. Requesting immediate support. The same message. The same voice. The same calm professionalism. I checked the timestamp on the loop. Each repetition was logged 2 minutes into the future. At 03:17, the message was timestamped 03:19. At 03:19, it was timestamped 3:21. The signal wasn't delayed. It was advanced. The drone lost contact at mile 2.0 and never returned. We sealed the ventilation shaft and flagged Tunnel 7 as permanently restricted, but the transmission continues. Every night at 01:23 I receive the same call from Train 3804. Same message. Same timestamp discrepancy. I log it. I respond with the same warnings. And every night I hear Whitman's voice fade into static as he approaches the platform that no longer exists. I reviewed the personnel files. David Whitman was 42 when he disappeared. He had 17 years of service, an impeccable safety record, and a reputation for calm competence. His last known words, recorded in the 1983 incident report, were transmitted at 01:39. I can see the lights now. There's a platform ahead. I hear those words every night looping through the static, time-stamped 2 minutes ahead of real time. I don't know if I'm receiving an echo or a premonition. I don't know if Whitman is still driving that train or if the tunnel itself is replaying a moment that never finished. But I know this. Some routes don't end just because you seal the entrance, and some operators never sign off, because they're still waiting for clearance to complete a run that's been unfinished for 41 years. I keep the channel open. I keep logging the transmissions, because somewhere beneath the city, in a tunnel that shouldn't exist anymore, a train is still moving toward a station it will never reach, and every night it's 2 minutes closer to arriving. I found a maintenance request signed with my initials, dated 3 days before I started my shift. Maintenance crews for the Metro Transit Authority operate under strict designation protocols. Each team is assigned an alphanumeric code, a number indicating the sector, a letter indicating the specialty. Track maintenance is A. Electrical is E. Structural is S. Crew 23A handles track sector 23. Crew 14E handles electrical in sector 14. The system is simple, documented, and audited daily. On February 3rd, I noticed an irregularity in the overnight request log. A new entry appeared at 02:14. Crew 47B requesting access authorization for Tunnel 6, maintenance corridor beneath Ashford Junction. Authorization signed, Dispatch Supervisor JT. My initials, but I didn't authorize any access at 02:14. I was monitoring Line 3, handling a signal delay near Brookfield Station. I reviewed my activity log. No communication with Crew 47B, no authorization issued. I called the depot and asked for clarification. The shift supervisor checked the crew roster. There was no Crew 47B. No such designation existed. Sector 47 had been decommissioned in 1978. Probably a clerical error, he said. I'll flag it for audit. But the next night, another entry appeared. 14. Crew 47B requesting replacement access keys. Lost set reported during tunnel inspection. Authorization signed. Dispatch Supervisor JT. Again, my initials. Again, I hadn't signed anything. I reviewed the request logs. Crew 47B had been submitting maintenance reports for 2 weeks. Routine inspections, equipment checks, tunnel clearances, all filed under my authorization, all time-stamped during my shift. But I had no memory of any communication with them. I contacted the systems administrator and requested a full audit. She pulled the digital signatures and compared them to my authorization key. They matched perfectly, encryption intact. No signs of forgery. You signed these, she said. The system doesn't lie, but I hadn't. On February 6th, I received a direct radio transmission. Dispatch, this is Crew 47B. We've completed inspection of Tunnel 6, subsection D. Structural integrity confirmed. Request sign-off for completion. The voice was calm, methodical, slightly muffled by static. Crew 47B, identify your team leader and sector assignment. Silence. Then, team leader is Foreman Briggs. Sector 47 structural maintenance. We've been operating under your authorization for 2 weeks, dispatch. Is there a problem? I checked the personnel database. No Foreman Briggs. No active crew in Sector 47. 47B, your designation is not on the active roster. Clarify your deployment authorization. Static. Then a faint chuckle. We're using the same authorization you've been signing, dispatch. Check your logs. The line went dead. I pulled every request filed under Crew 47B, 43 entries, all signed with my initials, all timestamped during my shift, all describing maintenance work in tunnels I'd never authorized access to, and every entry was dated 1 day before I logged into the system. On February 9th, I stayed late and monitored the access logs in real time. At Aero 214, a new request appeared. Crew 47B requesting tool resupply for junction work near Sector 12 relay station. Authorization signed, Dispatch Supervisor JT. I watched the entry populate on my screen. I hadn't touched the keyboard. I hadn't issued any command. But my initials appeared in the signature field and the timestamp read 0214, the exact moment I was watching it happen. I tried to delete the entry. The system rejected the command. Authorization already confirmed. Deletion requires secondary supervisor approval. I called the depot. The night supervisor reviewed the request and confirmed. Crew 47B had already checked out tools and entered Sector 12. Who authorized the checkout? I asked. You did? Your signature is on the equipment log. I drove to the depot at 3 Don Rosario. The equipment log was open on the counter, ink still wet. My signature was clear, dated February 9th, 0214, but I hadn't been to the depot in 3 weeks. The night supervisor reviewed the security footage. At 0214, the camera showed the checkout counter, empty, no one visible. But the equipment log flipped open on its own, and a pen moved across the page, signing my name in precise, deliberate strokes. I stopped reporting the requests. I stopped trying to delete them, because every night at 0214, Crew 47B submits a new maintenance report, signs my initials, and continues working in tunnels I've never authorized them to enter. And every report is dated 1 day before it appears. I don't know who they are. I don't know who's signing my name, but I know the requests are getting closer, subsections nearer to the central hub, corridors directly beneath the control room. Last week, they requested access to the relay station beneath my terminal. The authorization was already signed, by me, 3 days ago. The motion sensor triggered at 0034 on a platform that had been empty for 8 months. But when I zoomed in, the figure on the screen turned and looked directly into the camera. The Metro Transit Authority operates 287 CCTV cameras across the underground network. Each camera is monitored in real time by automated motion detection software. Alerts are logged, reviewed, and archived. Most triggers are routine. Maintenance crews, cleaning staff, occasional trespassers. Camera 12 on Line 6 monitors the Ridgeway Station platform, which has been closed for renovation since June. No personnel, no access, no authorized entry. On March 2nd at 0034, the motion detection software flagged Camera 12. I pulled up the feed. The platform was dimly lit, construction barriers visible along the edges, scaffolding against the far wall. The lighting flickered, likely a faulty circuit. But in the center of the frame, near the platform edge, someone was standing. A figure, motionless, facing away from the camera. I enhanced the image. The figure was wearing dark clothing, hood pulled up, hands in pockets. Posture relaxed, casual, as if waiting for a train, but no train stopped at Ridgeway. The platform had been offline for 8 months. I radioed security. We have an unauthorized individual on the Ridgeway platform, Line 6. Request immediate response. Security confirmed and dispatched a 2-person team. Okay, 12 minutes. I kept the feed open, watching the figure. They didn't move, didn't shift weight, didn't look around. Just stood there, facing the empty tracks. At 0041, the figure's head tilted slightly, as if listening to something. I checked the audio feed. Camera 12 wasn't equipped with a microphone, but the motion detection software registered a secondary alert. Sound detected. I isolated the feed and boosted the gain. Beneath the hum of ventilation and the distant rumble of trains on adjacent lines, I heard it. A faint rhythmic tapping. Metal on concrete, slow, deliberate. The figure turned, Not quickly, not suddenly, just a slow, smooth rotation until they were facing the camera directly. I couldn't see a face. The hood shadowed the features, but I had the distinct, undeniable impression that they were looking at me. I zoomed in. The image pixelated, then resolved. The figure was closer to the camera now, though I hadn't seen them move. They stood at the base of the platform directly beneath camera 12, staring upward, and then they raised one hand and waved. I pulled back from the monitor. My heart rate spiked. I checked the timestamp 0043. Security ETA, 4 minutes. I radioed the team. Target is aware of surveillance. Exercise caution on approach. Copy that, dispatch. Entering the platform now. I switched to the security team's body cam feed. They descended the access stairs, pushed through the barrier gates, and swept their flashlights across the platform. Empty. No figure. No movement. No sign of entry or exit. I split-screened the feeds. Camera 12 on the left, body cam on the right. On camera 12, the figure was still there, standing beneath the lens, hand raised. On the body cam, the platform was vacant. Dispatch, platform is clear. No signs of trespass. Motion sensors might be glitching. Negative. I have visual confirmation of a figure on camera 12. They are standing directly in front of you. Silence. Then, dispatch, we're looking at the feed. There's nothing here. I stared at the screen. The figure lowered their hand slowly, then turned and walked toward the tunnel entrance. Not quickly, not furtively, but calmly, deliberately. They stepped off the platform edge and disappeared into the tunnel. Security, check the tunnel access. Target has entered the southbound tunnel. The team moved to the tunnel entrance and shone their lights into the darkness. The tunnel was sealed with a chain-link barrier, padlocked and undisturbed. Dispatch, the barrier is secure. No one's been through here. I rewound the camera 12 feed and watched again. The figure walked to the edge, stepped down onto the tracks, and continued into the tunnel. The motion detection software logged the event. Target exited frame at 0046, but the tunnel was sealed. Had been for months. I filed the incident report and flagged camera 12 for technical review. The next morning, a technician inspected the equipment. No faults, no software glitches. The camera was functioning normally. But that night at 0034, the motion sensor triggered again. Same platform. Same figure. Same position, facing away from the camera. I didn't call security. I just watched. At 0041, the figure turned and looked up at the camera. This time they didn't wave. They tilted their head as if curious. I zoomed in. The image resolved. The figure was closer now, standing directly beneath the lens, and I saw it. The face was mine. Not similar. Not reminiscent, mine, my features, my expression, my exact posture. I stepped back from the console, pulse hammering. The figure on the screen raised one hand and pointed, not at the camera, but past it toward the control room door. I turned. The door was closed. The corridor beyond was dark. When I looked back at the monitor, the figure was gone. The timestamp on camera 12 read Uzero Kanchuro Uzero. I checked the system clock, 0047, but the camera timestamp had reset to 0. I pulled the motion logs. Every alert triggered by camera 12 over the past 2 weeks had the same timestamp. Ryo 0. Not a glitch. Not a malfunction. A deliberate reset. I haven't reviewed camera 12 since. But every night at 034, the motion detection software flags the feed. And every night I see the figure standing on the empty platform, waiting. I don't zoom in anymore, because I know what I'll see. And I know that one night, the figure won't stay on the screen. They'll step off the platform, walk through the sealed tunnel, and find their way to the control room door. And when they do, I'll finally understand why the timestamp resets, because some recordings aren't from the past. They're previews of what's coming. The announcer called in at 0317. Calmly reading departure times for trains that hadn't run in 20 years. But I deleted that schedule myself, 3 weeks ago. The Metro Transit Authority employs automated announcement systems for most stations. Pre-recorded messages digitally triggered by train arrivals and schedule updates. But a few older stations still use live announcers. Holdovers from an earlier era, kept on staff for their reliability and familiarity with the system. Ridley Hammond was one of them. He'd been with the authority for 34 years. assigned to Central Station, working the overnight shift. His voice was calm, authoritative, and instantly recognizable to anyone who regularly used the system. He read the schedule with precision, announced delays with patience, and never deviated from protocol. On April 5th, at 03:17, I received a call from Ridley. "Dispatch, this is Hammond Central Station. I'm reading some unusual entries on tonight's schedule. Trains listed for platforms that haven't been in service for years. Should I announce them anyway?" I pulled up the Central Station schedule. It was standard. 12 arrivals, 9 departures, all active lines. No anomalies. "Hammond, I'm looking at the schedule now. Everything appears normal. Which entries are you seeing?" A pause. Then, Platform 7, southbound service to Millbrook via the old express route. Platform 9, northbound to Harmon Street. These lines were discontinued decades ago. I checked the archived schedules. Platform 7 and Platform 9 had been decommissioned in 1991 and 1983, respectively. No trains ran those routes anymore. "Hammond, those platforms aren't on the active schedule. Where are you reading this from?" "From the display board in the control booth. It's right here in front of me." I accessed the Central Station control booth remotely and pulled up the digital display feed. The board showed the correct schedule. No phantom entries, no decommissioned platforms. "Hammond, the board is showing the standard schedule. Are you reading from a printed copy?" Another pause. "No, I'm reading from the board. The digital one. It's showing Platform 7 departure at 03:22. I checked the timestamp 03:18. 4 minutes. Hammond, do not announce that departure. The platform is not active. Repeat, do not announce." "Understood, dispatch." The line went quiet. I monitored the Central Station audio feed, listening for any announcements. At 03:22, I heard Ridley's voice over the PA system. "Attention passengers. Train 5508 now departing from Platform 7, southbound express service to Millbrook. Please stand clear of the platform edge." I radioed him immediately. "Hammond, I told you not to announce that train." Silence. Then, "I'm reading from the board, dispatch. The train is listed. I'm following protocol." I pulled the Central Station CCTV feed. Platform 7 was dark. Barriers in place, no passengers, no train. The platform hadn't been used in 32 years, but on the audio feed, I heard the faint echo of Ridley's voice, repeating the announcement in the empty station. I contacted the night supervisor and requested an in-person check. He arrived at Central Station at 03:45 and found Ridley in the control booth sitting at the desk, headset on, reading from a printed schedule. An old one. "Dated 1991. Where did you get that?" the supervisor asked. Ridley looked up, confused. "It was here when I started my shift." I assumed it was tonight's schedule. The supervisor confiscated the printed schedule and replaced it with the current digital display. He filed a report and chalked it up to confusion. An old document accidentally left in the booth, Ridley misreading it under fatigue. But 3 nights later, Ridley called again. "Dispatch, the board is showing the old schedule again. Platform 7, Platform 9, trains I've never heard of. Should I announce them?" I checked the remote feed. The digital board was still displaying the correct schedule. "Hammond, you're reading from the wrong source. The board is showing the active schedule only." "No, dispatch. I'm looking right at it. Platform 9, northbound to Harmon Street. Departure at 4:03, it's right here." I drove to Central Station myself. I entered the control booth at 03:55. Ridley was sitting at the desk, headset on, eyes fixed on the display board. I looked at the board. It showed the standard schedule. "No Platform 7, no Platform 9, no phantom trains. Ridley, what are you seeing?" He pointed at the screen. "Right there. Platform 9, train 3804, departure at 04:03. I followed his finger. The screen showed Platform 4, train 2217, departure at 04:15. "Ridley, that's Platform 4, you're misreading the display." He turned to me, eyes bloodshot, face pale. "I'm not misreading it. I've been announcing trains for 34 years. I know what I'm seeing." I checked the PA logs. Over the past week, Ridley had announced 17 trains that didn't exist, all on decommissioned platforms, all following schedules from decades past. I recommended he take medical leave. The authority agreed. Ridley was placed on temporary suspension pending a fitness evaluation, but the announcements didn't stop. Every night, at the times Ridley had been scheduled to work, His voice echoed through Central Station, calmly announcing phantom trains on long-dead platforms. The PA system was checked. No malfunctions. No recordings. The voice was live, transmitting from the control booth but the booth was empty. I reviewed the CCTV footage. At 03:17, the control booth door opened. At 03:18, the desk chair moved slightly as if someone had sat down. At 03:22, the PA system activated, and Ridley's voice announced the departure of train 55508 from Platform 7. But no one was in the room. I contacted Ridley at home. He answered on the third ring, voice groggy. Dispatch? Ridley, are you at Central Station right now? No, I'm at home. I've been here all night, why? I heard his voice in my headset, the live feed from Central Station, announcing the arrival of train 3804 at Platform 9. Ridley, we're receiving your announcements live right now. Silence. Then, that's impossible. I'm not there. But I heard him speak, clear and calm over the PA system. Attention passengers. Train 3804 now arriving at Platform 9. Please stand clear of the doors. I hung up and returned to Central Station. The control booth was empty. The PA system was silent. But when I played back the audio logs, Ridley's voice was recorded, time-stamped, and archived him announcing trains that no longer ran, reading from schedules that no longer existed. I found the printed schedule he'd been using. It was dated August 12, 1991. The final day Platform 7 and Platform 9 were in service. The last announcer listed on the staffing log for that date was Ridley. Hammond I pulled his personnel file. He'd been hired in 1989. But the archived photo in his 1991 file showed a man in his 60s, the same age Ridley was now. I confronted him the next day. Ridley, how long have you been working the overnight shift at Central Station? 34 years. Since 1989, and you've never taken a leave? Never transferred? No, same shift, same station, every night. I showed him the 1991 photo. He stared at it, face pale. That's me, but I was younger then. Ridley, this photo is from 34 years ago. You look the same age. He didn't respond. I checked the transit logs. Every night since April 5th. Announcements had been recorded from Central Station during Ridley's scheduled shift. Even on nights he was confirmed to be at home, and every announcement was for trains that ran on August 12, 1991. The final night Platform 7 and Platform 9 were operational. Ridley stopped coming in after that. The authority terminated his position, but the announcements continue every night. At 03:17, Ridley's voice echoes through Central Station, calmly reading the schedule from 1991, announcing trains that will never arrive, guiding passengers who aren't there. I listen sometimes, late at night when the station is empty. His voice never falters, never breaks, always calm, always professional. And sometimes, between announcements, I hear him pause as if listening for a response, as if waiting for someone to confirm the trains are running on time. I don't know if Ridley is still announcing by choice or because he can't stop, but I know this. Some shifts never end, and some announcers keep reading the schedule long after the last train has departed, because down here, beneath the city, time loops differently, and some voices never sign off. The emergency call came through at 02:56. Voice panicked, reporting a derailment in Sector 9. But Sector 9 was demolished in 1974. Emergency Line 9 is a dedicated channel for tunnel responders, maintenance crews, medics, and engineers who work in the deepest sections of the metro system. The line is equipped with GPS tagging, real-time location tracking, and priority override. When someone calls Emergency Line 9, you answer immediately. On May 3rd at 02:56, the line activated. Dispatch, this is Responder Callahan, Sector 9 tunnel crew. We have a derailment, multiple injuries. Requesting immediate medical and recovery support. The voice was male, mid-30s, breathless but controlled. Standard emergency protocol. I activated the GPS tracker. The signal originated from Sector 9, subsection C, approximately 600 feet beneath the old Riverfront District. But Sector 9 had been demolished in 1974 during the expansion project. The tunnels were filled, the access points sealed. No crews operated there. No responders were assigned. Responder Callahan, confirm your crew designation and deployment authorization. Static. Heavy breathing. Then, Crew 18R deployed at 0130 for structural inspection. The tunnel collapsed during transit. We need help now. I checked the deployment logs. No Crew 18R. No authorizations for Sector 9. No structural inspections scheduled. Callahan, your location is not on the active grid. Clarify your entry point, more static. Then a faint whisper, barely audible. We're trapped. The train's off the rails. I can hear water. The tunnel's flooding. I contacted the emergency response coordinator. He reviewed the GPS tag and confirmed the signal was transmitting from within the sealed boundaries of Old Sector 9. That's impossible, he said. Those tunnels were filled with concrete 50 years ago, but the signal was live, active, transmitting. Distress, I dispatched a surface team to investigate the nearest access point, a sealed maintenance shaft near the old riverfront. They arrived at 3:15 and found the hatch intact, rusted shut, undisturbed for decades. Dispatch, the hatch hasn't been opened. No entry. I radioed Callahan. Responder Callahan. Surface team is at your nearest access point. The entrance is sealed. How did you enter Sector 9? Silence. Then very quietly, we've been here the whole time. The line went dead. I tried to re-establish contact. The GPS signal remained active, but no voice came through. Just static, and beneath it a faint rhythmic sound, like water dripping, or breathing. At 0342, the line activated again. But this time, the voice was different. Calmer, almost detached. Dispatch, he knows your name. My pulse spiked. Who is this? Silence. Then, Callahan. He's been asking for you. He says you're the one who sent us down here. I didn't send anyone. There are no active crews in Sector 9. A long pause. Then barely audible. Then why are we still here? The line cut. I pulled the archived personnel records. In 1974, during the final month of Sector 9 operations, a crew was deployed for structural assessment. Crew 18R, led by Foreman Gerard Callahan. They entered the tunnel on May 3, 1974 at 0130. They never returned. The recovery operation was suspended after 3 days. The tunnel was deemed unstable and scheduled for demolition. Crew 18R was listed as lost, presumed dead, caused structural collapse. I checked the date, May 3rd, 50 years to the day at 0407. Emergency line 9 activated one final time. Static. Breathing. Then a whisper. We're still waiting, dispatch. You never sent help. And beneath the static, I heard my own voice, distant, distorted, saying words I'd never spoken. Crew 18R, stand by. Help is on the way. The line went dead. The GPS signal vanished. I filed the incident report and flagged Emergency Line 9 for technical review. No faults were found. The system was functioning normally, but every year on May 3rd at 0256, the line activates and I hear Callahan's voice, calm and patient, reporting a derailment in a tunnel that doesn't exist anymore, requesting help that never came. And every year, I hear my own voice in the static, promising support I never authorized. I don't know if I'm listening to the past or participating in it, but I know this. Some calls never disconnect, and some responders are still waiting for rescue in tunnels that were sealed decades ago. I keep the line open, because one day, I'll understand what I promised them, and why they're still listening. The technician called at 0144, voice steady, asking for shutdown authorization. The lights won't turn off, he said, even with the breakers pulled. Section Delta is a maintenance corridor beneath Line 3, housing electrical panels, relay stations, and backup power systems. It's accessed by certified technicians only, requiring clearance and logged entry. The lighting system is independent, controlled locally with manual override capability. On June 8th at 0144, I received a call from Technician Voss. Dispatch, this is Voss, electrical team. I'm in Section Delta for routine inspection. I've got a problem with the lighting array. I've tried shutting it down locally, but the lights won't turn off. Standard protocol for lighting faults is to isolate the circuit and perform a manual shutdown from the central control terminal. Voss, confirm you've disconnected the local breakers. Affirmative. Breakers are off, but the lights are still on. All of them. Full brightness. I accessed the Section Delta electrical grid remotely and pulled up the status display. According to the system, power to the lighting array was disconnected. No active circuits, no current flow, but the CCTV feed showed the corridor bathed in harsh fluorescent light. Voss, the system indicates no power to the lights. Are you sure the breakers are off? Positive. I pulled them myself. The panel shows zero current, but the lights are still on. I ran a diagnostic on the electrical grid. No faults detected, no phantom loads, no feedback loops. Voss, I'm going to authorize a full system shutdown from central control. Stand by. I initiated the shutdown protocol isolating Section Delta from the main grid. The system confirmed. Power disconnected. All circuits inactive. But on the CCTV feed, the lights remained on. Voss radioed back. Dispatch, the lights are still on. I'm standing directly under one of the fixtures. I can feel the heat, but the panel's dead. I checked the backup power systems. All offline. No emergency generators active. No auxiliary feeds. Voss, exit Section Delta immediately. I'm flagging this for emergency review. Copy that. But as Voss moved toward the exit, something changed on the CCTV feed. The lights flickered. Not in sequence, but all at once, a brief, synchronized pulse, like something breathing through the electrical system. And then on every monitor in the control room, the same message appeared in white text on a black background. Do not turn off the lights. I hadn't typed anything. I hadn't touched the keyboard. I checked the system logs. The message had been entered from my terminal, using my credentials, timestamped 0147, but my hands were on the radio, not the keyboard. I radioed Voss. Technician Voss, disregard previous instruction. Do not exit Section Delta. Maintain current position. Dispatch, why? What's happening? I didn't know. I stared at the message on the screen, watching as a new line of text appeared below it. They need the light. I checked the command log. The text was being entered in real time, one character at a time, as if someone was typing it directly into my terminal. But I was alone in the control room. Dispatch. The lights just flickered again, Voss said. It's colder down here now. I can see my breath. I pulled up the environmental sensors for Section Delta. Temperature 58 degree Wars. Normal. But Voss's voice was shaking. Dispatch, I'm seeing something in the corridor. Shadows. Moving between the lights. But there's no one else down here. I zoomed in on the CCTV feed. The corridor was empty. Voss was visible, standing near the exit, flashlight in hand. But behind him, at the far end of the corridor, the light was dimmer and not failing, but blocked, as if something was standing in front of the fixtures. A new line of text appeared on my terminal. If the lights go out, they leave. I radioed Voss. Do not turn off your flashlight. Do not disconnect any remaining power sources. Stay in the light. Dispatch, what's going on? I didn't answer. I was watching the CCTV feed as the shadows moved closer, slow and deliberate, staying just beyond the reach of the brightest lights. Another line of text. We've been here longer than the tunnels. Pulled the archived records for Section Delta. The corridor was constructed in 1965 during the initial excavation. But the site survey noted an anomaly. A pre-existing chamber older than the transit system, incorporated into the design. Origin unknown. Purpose unknown. The chamber had been sealed and classified as structurally integrated. I radioed Voss. Voss, are you near the old chamber access? Yes, about 20 feet from the sealed door. Move away from it now. Dispatch, the lights just went out. My monitors went black. Not a power failure. Not a system crash. Just black all at once, as if something had reached into the control room and shut everything down. And then in the darkness of the screen, I saw it. A reflection. Not mine, someone standing behind me. I spun around. The control room was empty, but when I turned back to the monitors, they were on again. The CCTV feed showed Section Delta, lights flickering, Voss gone. The command terminal displayed a final line of text. Thank you for keeping the lights on. I reviewed the logs. At 0149, Voss's radio signal ceased. At 0150, the Section Delta lighting array went offline. At 0151, all systems returned to normal operation. A search team was deployed at 0215. They found Section Delta empty, lights functioning normally, no signs of Voss. His equipment was located near the sealed chamber door, flashlight still on, radio intact, no indication of distress. But the chamber door, which had been sealed since 1965, was open. Just a crack, just enough for someone to slip through. I reviewed the CCTV footage frame by frame. In the final seconds before the lights went out, I saw Voss standing near the door, and in the darkness behind him, dozens of figures barely visible standing just outside the light, waiting. When the lights failed, they moved forward, and Voss moved back into the chamber. The door was sealed again the following day. Section Delta was flagged as restricted, but every night at 0144, my terminal displays the same message: do not turn off the lights, and every night, I confirm that the Section Delta lighting array remains active, because I know what's waiting in the dark, and I know what happens when the lights go out. Some systems aren't designed to illuminate, they're designed to contain. The message played at 0217, voice calm, reporting a passenger who wouldn't leave the train, but the conductor who left it had been retired for 15 years. The Metro Transit Authority maintains an internal voicemail system for operational communication. Dispatchers, operators, technicians, anyone with access to the network can leave messages for colleagues, report issues, or log observations. Messages are archived for 30 days, then automatically deleted. On July 12th at 0217, my phone console beeped with a new voicemail. I played it back. The voice was male, older, calm, but slightly concerned. Dispatch, this is Conductor Melton, train 6104. We've got a delay on the southbound line. There's a passenger who won't disembark at the final stop. I've asked twice, but they're just sitting there staring at the tunnel. Also, I'm not seeing the usual tunnel markers past Millbrook. The signs are different. Can you confirm the route? I'll try the passenger again and check back. The message ended. I checked the active roster. No train 6104. No Conductor Melton on duty. I pulled the personnel database. James Melton, retired conductor, last active shift August 2008. 15 years ago. I ran a trace on the voicemail. The call originated from extension 4721, an internal line assigned to the dispatcher control room. My control room. The phone on my desk. But I hadn't made the call. I'd been monitoring line 3, handling a minor signal delay. I reviewed my activity log. At 0217, I was logged into the system radioactive. No phone usage recorded. I played the message again, listening carefully. The background noise was familiar. The hum of monitors, the faint beep of the scheduling board, the low rumble of ventilation. The same sounds that filled my control room. But there was something else. Beneath the ambient noise, I heard a faint rhythmic tapping, metal on metal, slow and deliberate. I contacted the systems administrator and reported the anomaly. She pulled the phone logs. Extension 4721 had placed a call at 2:17, duration 43 seconds, recipient, dispatch voicemail. But you're at extension 4721 right now, she said. You called yourself. I hadn't. The next night at 0217, another voicemail arrived. Same voice. Same calm tone. Dispatch Melton again. The passenger still won't leave. They're sitting in the last car, facing the rear window, watching the tunnel. I've tried 3 times now. They won't respond. And the tunnel markers, I'm not recognizing any of them. The signs are in a language I don't know. Can someone confirm the route? I'm starting to think we took a wrong turn. I played the message back twice. The background noise was identical. My control room, my equipment, my environment. But the voice was definitely Melton's. I pulled the archived personnel files and found a photo. James Melton, age 61 at retirement, calm expression, weathered face. The photo was dated 2008. I called the retirement office and requested contact information. They provided an address. I drove there the next morning. James Melton lived in a small house on the north side of the city. He answered the door, older now, but still recognizable. Mr. Melton, I'm a dispatcher with the Metro Transit Authority. I need to ask you about some voicemails you've been leaving. He frowned. Voicemails? I haven't worked for the authority in 15 years. I don't even have access to the system anymore. I played the messages for him. He listened, face pale. That's my voice. But I didn't leave those messages. I haven't been on a train since I retired. Do you remember train 6104? His expression shifted, recognition, then discomfort. Yeah, that was my last route. Southbound line, late night service. I ran it for 12 years. Do you remember anything unusual about your final shift? He hesitated. There was a passenger. Last car wouldn't leave at the final stop. I asked them to disembark, but they just sat there staring out the rear window. I called dispatch, but the radio wasn't working right. Static and interference. I tried a few times, then gave up and filed a report when I got back to the depot. The passenger was gone by then. Must have left while I was up front. What did the passenger look like? I don't know. I never saw their face. They were wearing a dark coat, hood up, just sitting there perfectly still. And the tunnel markers? Did you notice anything unusual? He looked away. Yeah, the signs were wrong. Not the usual route markers. Different symbols. I thought maybe I'd taken a wrong turn, but the GPS said I was on course. I reported it, but maintenance said the signs were fine. They checked the tunnel the next day, said everything was normal. What happened after that? I finished my shift and retired the next week. I'd been planning it for months. But that last ride, it stayed with me. I still dream about it sometimes. The passenger. The tunnel. The feeling that I'd gone somewhere I wasn't supposed to. I thanked him and left. That night at 0217 another voicemail arrived. Dispatch Melton again. I think the passenger is still here. I can see them in the rear window reflection. They're not moving. And the tunnel. It's not ending. We've been running for over an hour. The station should have come up by now. Can you confirm the route? I think we're lost. I traced the call again. Extension 4721, my phone. But I was sitting at my desk watching it happen in real time. The phone didn't ring. The handset didn't move. But the voicemail system logged an incoming call, time-stamped 02.17 from my extension. I pulled the CCTV feed of the control room. At Aero 217, the camera showed me sitting at my desk, monitoring the boards. But in the reflection of the monitor behind me, I saw something else, a figure, standing in the corner of the room. Dark coat, hood up. Facing away, I turned. The control room was empty, but when I looked back at the monitor, the figure was closer. Standing directly behind my chair, I spun around. Nothing. The voicemail system beeped. A new message, I played it back. Melton's voice, quieter now, almost resigned. Dispatch, I don't think we're getting off this train. The passenger is standing now. They're walking toward the front. I can hear their footsteps. I'm going to try the emergency brake. Static. A long pause. Then the brake's not responding. We're still moving. The passenger is at the door now. They're looking at me. Another pause. Then, barely audible, they have your face. The message ended. I checked the timestamp. Oro 217. The same time every night. I haven't answered the phone since. But the voicemails continue. Every night at 0217, Melton leaves another message describing the passenger, the tunnel, the signs he doesn't recognize. And every night the message ends the same way. They have your face. I reviewed the archived incident reports from August 2008. On Melton's final shift, a passenger was reported missing from train 6104. No identification. No description. The case was closed after 3 days, presumed to have disembarked at an earlier stop. But the tunnel footage from that night showed something different. The passenger never left the train. They're still there. In the last car. Facing the rear window. Watching the tunnel. And every night. At 0217, Melton calls to report it from a train that finished its route 15 years. I go from a phone that rings inside my control. Room in a loop that never ends. I don't know if Melton is still driving that train or if the message is an echo. Replaying across time. But I know the passenger is still there. And one night, they'll finish walking to the front, and I'll see their face, and it will be mine. The janitor radioed at 3:35, voice cheerful, reporting he'd finished cleaning the lower platform. But according to the station blueprints, there was no lower platform. The Metro Transit Authority employs overnight cleaning crews for platform maintenance. The work is straightforward. Sweep debris, mop floors, empty trash receptacles, inspect for hazards. Each crew follows a designated route, logs completion, and moves to the next station. On August 19th at 03:35, I received a routine check-in from Janitor Perry. Dispatch. This is Perry, Station 14. Just finished the lower platform, moving to the restrooms next. I pulled up the Station 14 layout. There were two platforms, upper level for northbound trains, lower level for southbound. Perry's route included both. Copy that, Perry. Proceed to restrooms. Will do. The line went quiet. Standard interaction. I logged the completion and moved on. 20 minutes later, the night supervisor called. Dispatch, I'm at Station 14. Perry's equipment is here, but I can't find him. His cart's in the corridor, mop and bucket still wet. Did he radio in? Affirmative. He checked in at 03:35. Said he finished the lower platform and was moving to restrooms. Lower platform? Station 14 only has one platform. The southbound line runs at street level. I pulled the blueprints again. He was right. Station 14 had a single platform, elevated with no lower level. The southbound route ran on a separate track accessed from a different entrance. Perry, respond. I radioed. Static. I dispatched security to sweep the station. They found Perry's cleaning cart, his radio clipped to the handle, his jacket draped over the mop. But no Perry. Dispatch, we've checked every room. He's not here. I reviewed the CCTV footage. At 03:12, Perry entered Station 14 through the maintenance entrance, pulling his cart. He cleaned the platform methodically, working from north to south. At 03:28, he paused near the south wall, looking at something off camera. He bent down, set his mop aside, and approached a service hatch built into the floor. He opened it. I zoomed in. The hatch led to a narrow maintenance shaft, used for accessing electrical conduits and ventilation ducts. It wasn't designed for personnel entry, too cramped, too steep, but Perry climbed in. He descended out of frame, and the hatch closed behind him. At 03:35, the radio transmitted his check-in. Just finished the lower platform, but he was still in the shaft. Security opened the hatch and shone flashlights down. The shaft dropped 15 feet, then branched into a horizontal conduit barely 3 feet high. No signs of Perry, no sounds, no light. One security officer descended. He reached the bottom, crawled into the conduit, and called up, "There's another hatch down here. Looks old. No markings. Open it, static." Then, "It's locked from the other side. Can you force it?" "It's not a normal lock. It's sealed." Like it was welded shut, the officer returned to the surface. The shaft was flagged as restricted, and a formal search request was filed. But at 05:47, 2 hours after Perry disappeared, the CCTV footage showed something. The service hatch opened, slowly, from below, and Perry's mop and bucket rolled out onto the platform, as if pushed from beneath. The hatch closed. No one was visible on camera. Security returned and inspected the equipment. The mop was clean. The bucket was empty. The radio was still clipped to the cart, turned off. But when they powered it on, it transmitted a single message, recorded at 05:47. "Thanks for letting me through." Perry's voice. Calm, matter of fact. I pulled the blueprints again, searching for historical records. In 1968, during initial construction, Station 14 was planned as a 2-level platform. The lower level was excavated but never completed. Structural instability forced the project to be abandoned, and the lower platform was sealed, but the access shaft was never filled. I reviewed the 1968 incident reports. During excavation, 3 workers disappeared while inspecting the lower platform site. They entered the unfinished chamber and never returned. A search was conducted, but the chamber was deemed too unstable to continue. It was sealed and the project was redesigned. The missing workers were never found. Perry's family was notified. A formal investigation was opened. The service hatch was welded shut and covered with concrete, but every few months the hatch opens. Just a crack. Just enough for something to roll out: a mop, a bucket, tools left behind by maintenance crews who ventured too close. And sometimes late at night the radio transmits a brief message. Just finished the lower platform. Different voices, different names, but the same calm professionalism. I don't know what's down there. I don't know what Perry found when he opened that hatch, but I know he's still cleaning, and one day, someone else will hear the call, open the hatch, and descend into the lower platform that was never finished, and they'll radio in, voice calm and routine, reporting completion, and they'll never come back. The surveyor's blueprints showed a tunnel connecting Line 4 and Line 7, 2 lines that run parallel 3 miles apart. But the tunnel existed, and the maintenance team found it. The Metro Transit Authority contracts independent surveyors to verify infrastructure accuracy. Every 5 years, the entire underground network is remapped, cross-referenced with historical records, and updated. Discrepancies are flagged for investigation. On September 4th, I received an email from Surveyor Brennan. Subject: Anomaly. Unmapped tunnel between Line 4 and Line 7. Attached were updated blueprints showing a narrow service tunnel running perpendicular between the two lines, approximately 1.2 miles in length. The tunnel was marked in red, labeled Structure Confirmed, Origin Unknown. I called Brennan. You're saying there's a tunnel connecting Line 4 and Line 7? Correct. We picked it up on ground-penetrating radar during the sector scan. It's definitely there. Roughly 8 feet in diameter, running east-west. But it's not on any historical map. No construction records. No authorization logs. That's impossible. Line 4 and Line 7 are 3 miles apart. That's what I thought. But the radar doesn't lie. We're recommending a physical inspection. I forwarded the report to the maintenance supervisor, who assigned a 3-person team: Foreman Colfax, Technician Reed, and Engineer Mallory. They were dispatched at 14 GARs with portable radios, structural sensors, and camera equipment. I monitored their progress from the control room. At 14:17, Colfax radioed in. Dispatch, we've located the access point. It's hidden behind a false panel near the Line 4 maintenance corridor. Looks like it's been here a while. Old construction predates the current system. Understood. Proceed with caution. They entered the tunnel. The radio feed was clear, their voices calm and professional. At 14:23, Reed reported, Tunnel is structurally sound. Walls are concrete, reinforced. Lighting is old but functional. We're proceeding east. At 14:31, Mallory, we're approximately halfway through. The tunnel's narrowing slightly. Temperature's dropping. We're picking up some air movement, ventilation from somewhere. At 14:38, Colfax. Dispatch, we've reached the midpoint. There's a junction here, 2 passages branching off. Not marked on the blueprints. Should we continue straight or investigate? Continue straight. Document the junctions for later review. Copy. At 14:42, the radio feed changed. Static. Then Colfax's voice. Distant and distorted. Dispatch, we've reached the midpoint. I checked the log. He just said that 4 minutes ago. Colfax, you already reported reaching the midpoint. Confirm your current position, Lentz. Then Reed's voice. Dispatch, we've reached the midpoint. The exact same cadence. The exact same phrasing. Reed, clarify your position. Are you with Colfax? Mallory's voice overlapping. Dispatch, we've reached the midpoint. All 3 radios were transmitting simultaneously, saying the same thing. Team, this is dispatch. Stop and regroup. Confirm visual contact with each other. Static. Then all 3 voices perfectly synchronized. Dispatch, we've reached the midpoint. I tried individual channels. Same result. Every transmission was identical, looping the same phrase. I contacted the surface supervisor and requested immediate extraction. He dispatched a secondary team to the Line 4 access point. At 15:04, the secondary team entered the tunnel. Their radios worked normally. At 15:11, they reported, Dispatch, we're halfway through. No sign of the first team. The tunnel's empty. Continue to the midpoint junction. At 15:18, they reached the junction. Dispatch, we found something. There are 3 radios here sitting on the ground. No sign of the team. The radios were retrieved and brought back to the depot. I examined them personally. Each radio was functional, fully charged, tuned to the correct frequency. But when I powered them on, they transmitted simultaneously. Dispatch, we've reached the midpoint, the same phrase, looping endlessly. I pulled the audio logs and analyzed the waveform. The transmissions were identical, not similar, but exact duplicates down to the millisecond, as if the same recording was playing through all 3 radios. But the voices weren't recordings. They were live. Real-time transmissions layered over each other, and beneath the voices, I heard something else, my own voice, faint, distorted, saying, Continue to the midpoint junction. Words I'd spoken to the secondary team, 30 minutes after the first team's transmissions began. I reviewed the CCTV footage from the Line 4 access point. At 14:17, the first team entered. At 15:04, the secondary team entered. But between those times, the camera captured something else. At 14:42, the exact moment the transmissions began looping, 3 figures emerged from the tunnel. They walked calmly, deliberately, toward the camera. Their faces were obscured by shadows, but their movements were synchronized, identical. When they reached the access panel, they stopped and turned back toward the tunnel, and then they walked backward into the darkness, retracing their steps frame by frame until they disappeared. I froze the footage and enhanced the image. The figures were Colfax, Reed, and Mallory, but they weren't walking. They were being pulled back into the tunnel, into the midpoint where something was waiting. I sealed the tunnel. The access point was welded shut, flagged as structurally compromised, and removed from the official maps, but the radios still transmit. Every day at 14:42, all 3 radios activate simultaneously, broadcasting the same message. Dispatch, we've reached the midpoint. And every day, I hear my own voice in the background, giving instructions I've already given, coordinating a rescue I've already attempted. I don't know what's at the midpoint. I don't know what the tunnel connects, but I know this. Some junctions don't lead to other lines, they lead to other times. And some teams never make it back, because they're still reaching the midpoint, over and over, in a loop that never ends. I keep the radios locked in storage, because I know that one day, I'll hear my own voice transmitting, "Dispatch, I've reached the midpoint," and I'll realize I've been walking that tunnel all along. The Lost and Found clerk submitted a manifest of unclaimed tickets, 43 names, all from Train 000. But Train 000 never departed. And every name on the list matched a missing person report. The Metro Transit Authority maintains a centralized Lost and Found system. Items left on trains, platforms, or in stations are cataloged, logged, and stored for 30 days. After that, unclaimed items are donated or discarded. The process is routine, mundane, and rarely noteworthy. On October 7th, I received an email from the Lost and Found clerk, Margaret Stroud. Subject: Unusual items. Request for guidance. Attached was a manifest listing 43 paper tickets, all found on the same train car during overnight cleaning. The tickets were old style, pre-digital, the kind the authority phased out in 2012. Each ticket bore a name, a date, and a train designation. Train 000, I called Margaret. Where did these come from? Cleaning crew found them on train 6217, last car, scattered across the seats. All identical design, all dated October 6th, but here's the thing. Train 000 isn't a real designation. And these tickets are handwritten, not printed. Handwritten? Yeah, someone wrote the names in ink. Same handwriting on all of them. Neat old-fashioned script. I accessed the digital ticketing system. No record of Train 000. No historical designation. No service logs. Margaret, send me the physical tickets. I'll review them. She delivered them that afternoon. I spread them across my desk. 43 tickets, identical except for the names. Each ticket listed a departure time, 23:47. Each ticket was dated October 6th, the night before. I pulled the missing person reports for the past decade. I cross-referenced the names on the tickets. 38 matches. 38 people who disappeared from Metro Transit stations over the past 10 years. No bodies recovered, no leads, no explanations. The names were scattered across different years, different stations, different circumstances. But they all had one thing in common. They were last seen boarding late-night trains. I contacted the transit police and submitted the manifest. They reopened the cases and began cross-referencing the tickets with the original reports. But the next night, at 23:47, something happened. I was monitoring the overnight schedule when the digital board flickered. A new entry appeared. Train 0000, Platform 12, departure 23:47. I checked Platform 12. It was empty. No train, no passengers, no personnel. But the scheduling system registered the departure. Logged, time-stamped, confirmed. I accessed the CCTV feed. At 23:46, Platform 12 was vacant. At 23:47, the platform lights dimmed briefly. And then for 3 seconds, a train appeared. Not a modern train. An older model. Rounded edges, narrow windows, dark green paint. The kind the authority retired in the early 2000s. The doors opened. No one boarded. The doors closed and the train vanished. The platform returned to normal. The light stabilized, but the scheduling board logged the departure. Train 000, Platform 12, 2347. I reviewed the footage frame by frame. In the 3 seconds the train was visible, I saw movement inside. Silhouettes in the windows, passengers standing, facing forward. I enhanced the image. The passengers were motionless, identical postures, hands at their sides, and on every seat I saw tickets. White paper. Handwritten names. The next morning, the lost and found clerk submitted another manifest, 43 tickets. Same train, same names. But this time, the date was October 8th. The names were different. 31 matches. 31 people who disappeared from Metro transit stations over the past 10 years. I pulled the surveillance logs for October 7th, reviewing footage from every station between 23 hours and midnight. At 23:47, across 12 different platforms, I saw the same thing. The lights dimmed. The old train appeared. The doors opened. And passengers boarded, not many. 1 or 2 per station. They walked calmly onto the train, sat down and waited. The doors closed. The train vanished, and every passenger who boarded was listed on the October 8th manifest. I contacted the transit police. They reviewed the footage, cross-referenced the names, and confirmed. Every person who boarded train 000 on October 7th was reported missing the following day. The train was collecting passengers. I reviewed the historical records, searching for any mention of train 000. I found one reference, buried in a 1953 incident report. Train 0000 was a designator used for unscheduled emergency transport, a backup train kept on standby for evacuations or system failures. It was never assigned a regular route, never listed on schedules, never supposed to run without direct authorization. The last documented use was October 6, 1953. The train was deployed during a tunnel fire, evacuating passengers from a compromised section. It departed at 23:47, carrying 43 passengers. It never arrived at the destination station. Search efforts were conducted for 2 weeks. No train, no passengers. No wreckage. The incident was classified as a catastrophic failure, and train 000 was stricken from the registry. But every year on October 6th at 23:47, the train returns. It appears on empty platforms, doors open, waiting, and passengers board, not because they're compelled, not because they're forced, but because they see something in the train, a destination, a promise, a way out. I don't know where train 000 goes. I don't know what happens to the passengers who board, but I know they don't come back, and I know that every year, the lost and found clerk submits a new manifest. 43 tickets, handwritten names, all dated the night before, and every year, the names match the missing person reports filed the following day. On October 6th of this year, I was monitoring Platform 12. At 23:46, the lights dimmed. At 23:47, the train appeared. The doors opened, and I saw someone standing inside near the rear window holding a ticket. They turned slowly, as if sensing my gaze, and I recognized the uniform. The posture, the face, it was me. The doors closed. The train vanished. The scheduling board logged the departure. Train 000, Platform 12, 23:47. The next morning, Margaret submitted the manifest, 43 names, and at the bottom in neat, old-fashioned script, my name. Dated October 7th. I haven't boarded yet, but I know I will, because some trains don't stop running just because you're not ready to leave. They wait, and eventually, everyone finds their way to platform. Towards 23:47 and the doors open and you board, because you see something inside, a destination you've been looking for, even if you didn't know you were lost. The arrival sensors triggered at 03:12, announcing an inbound train. But when I checked the platform feed, it was empty. No train, no lights, no sound. Just the hiss of doors opening somewhere in the dark. Platform sensors at Metro transit stations detect train arrivals automatically. When a train enters the approach zone, the system triggers alerts, activates platform lighting, and logs the arrival time. The system is precise, reliable, and rarely malfunctions. On November 14th at 03:12, every sensor on Platform 6 triggered simultaneously. The alert flashed across my monitors. Arrival detected. Platform 6, train inbound. I pulled up the CCTV feed. Platform 6 was empty. No train in the approach tunnel, no lights, no movement, but the sensors insisted. Train detected, doors opening. I radioed the station attendant. Confirm visual on Platform 6, sensors are indicating an arrival. Negative, dispatch. Platform is empty. No train scheduled for another 40 minutes. I ran a diagnostic on the sensor array. No faults, no false positives. The system registered a train. Length 110 meters, speed 0, doors open. But there was no train. I reset the system. The alert cleared. The sensors went dark, and then 2 seconds later they triggered again. Same alert. Same platform. Same phantom arrival. But this time the train ID appeared on the scheduling board. Oro 0DS. I checked the designation. No record, no historical use. No assigned route. The sensors triggered a third time, and then a fourth. Each time the same train ID, 000DS. I accessed the audio feed for Platform 6. Silence. Just the faint hum of ventilation. And then, barely audible, I heard it. The hiss of pneumatic doors opening. I zoomed in on the CCTV feed. The platform was still empty. But in the tunnel beyond, I saw movement. A faint flicker of light like distant headlights. And then the lights went out. Not just on Platform 6. Every monitor in the control room went black. The scheduling board, the radio console, everything. For 5 seconds, I sat in complete darkness. When the lights returned, the monitors displayed a single message. Train 00DS, arrival logged. You're late. I checked the timestamp. Arrow 3 on 12, the same moment the sensors first triggered. I radioed the station attendant. Evacuate Platform 6 immediately. Do not allow anyone near the platform edge. Copy, dispatch. But there's no one here. I pulled the CCTV archive and reviewed the footage from Oro 312, frame by frame. At 031204, the platform was empty. At 031205, a figure appeared, standing at the platform edge facing the tunnel, not walking into frame, not emerging from the stairs, just there, as if they'd always been standing there. The figure was wearing a conductor's uniform, dark coat, cap pulled low,
hands in pockets at 031207.
The figure turned toward the camera. I froze the frame. The face was mine. The figure on the screen raised one hand and gestured, a slow, deliberate wave beckoning me toward the platform. At 03 and 1209, the figure stepped off the edge and disappeared into the tunnel. And then, from the audio feed, I heard it, a voice, calm, familiar, my own voice, you're late. I shut down the feed. The scheduling board updated. Train 00DS on departure logged 0313. But I never authorized a departure. I never logged an arrival. The system was operating autonomously, registering trains that didn't exist, logging schedules I didn't create. I contacted the system's administrator. She reviewed the logs and confirmed, every entry for Train Burro DS was generated from my terminal using my credentials. But you didn't enter these, she said. Someone else is using your account. That's impossible. I'm the only one in the control room. Then the system is anticipating your commands, logging entries before you make them. I reviewed the logs. Every entry for Train 00DS was timestamped 3 seconds ahead of real time. The system wasn't recording the past. It was recording the future. And in the future, I was dispatching a train that didn't exist. At 0347, the sensors triggered again. Same platform, same train ID, same message, you're late. This time, I didn't reset the system. I watched the CCTV feed. At 034705, the figure appeared again. Same uniform, same posture, standing at the platform edge. But this time, they didn't turn toward the camera. They turned toward the tunnel and they stepped forward off the edge into the darkness, and I felt it. A pull, a compulsion, a certainty that I needed to be there. At Platform 6 at 0312, because I was late. I don't know what Train 00DS is. I don't know where it's going. But I know it's waiting for me, and every night the sensors trigger. The doors hiss open, and my own voice whispers from the tunnel. You're late. I've stopped resetting the system. I've stopped reviewing the logs, because I know that one night I'll walk to Platform 6, and the train will be there, and I'll board. Because some trains don't run on schedules, they run on inevitabilities, and eventually, we all arrive. The tech called at 0422, asking to reroute signal line Delta 7. There's something wrong with the feed, he said. It sounds like screaming. The Metro Transit Authority operates a vast communication network, radio relays, signal repeaters, and data lines connecting every station, tunnel, and control room. The infrastructure is old, layered, built incrementally over decades. Some lines are still active, some are dormant, and some were forgotten. On December 2nd at 4:22, I received a call from communications technician Harper. Dispatch, I'm in the relay room beneath Station 9. I need authorization to reroute signal line Delta 7. The feed is corrupted. Heavy distortion feedback loops. It's interfering with the main channels. Standard protocol for signal corruption is to isolate the line, diagnose the fault, and reroute if necessary. Harper, describe the distortion. A pause. It's hard to describe. Static but layered, like multiple signals bleeding through. And underneath there's this sound, almost like voices. Voices. Yeah, faint, distorted, but consistent. I've been listening for 10 minutes. It's definitely voices. I pulled up the signal line Delta 7 specifications. It was an old relay line installed in 1962, decommissioned in 1989. According to the records, the line had been physically disconnected and removed from the active network, but Harper was receiving a signal. Harper, Delta 7 should be inactive. Confirm the line is still physically connected. It is. The cable's intact, still running through the conduit, and the signal's live, strong, consistent. Can you isolate the feed and send it to my terminal? Stand by. 30 seconds later, my headset crackled with static. Beneath the noise, I heard it, voices, multiple, overlapping. Some were faint, barely audible. Others were clear, urgent, and one voice, louder than the rest, repeated the same phrase. Cut the line. Cut the line. Cut the line. I boosted the gain and filtered the static. The voices became clearer. They were distress calls. Emergency transmissions. Panic and desperation woven together. And then I heard it. My own voice. Faint. Distorted. But unmistakable. Dispatch to all units. Do not enter the corridor. Repeat, do not enter the corridor. I hadn't said those words. I'd never transmitted that message. But the voice was mine. I contacted Harper. Trace the signal source. I need to know where Delta 7 originates. He ran the trace. The signal originated from a relay chamber located 1.4 miles southeast of Station 9, beneath the old industrial district. I pulled the archived blueprints. The relay chamber was part of the original 1960s expansion, built as a communication hub for the wartime civil defense network. The chamber was decommissioned in 1989 and sealed. Harper, the source is a sealed chamber. Delta 7 should be dead, but the signal is live. I'm authorizing a field inspection. Proceed with caution. He arrived at the chamber entrance at 0510. The door was rusted, marked with a faded civil defense emblem. The lock was broken, the door slightly ajar. Dispatch, the door's open. Looks like someone's been here recently. Proceed inside. Document everything. Harper entered. The chamber was small, rectangular, lined with old relay equipment and communication panels. Most of the equipment was dark, covered in dust. But in the center of the room, one panel was active, lights blinking, signal meters fluctuating, and from the speakers, the voices continued, overlapping, distorted, desperate. Dispatch. The signal's coming from panel 4, it's active. Power supply is intact, but this equipment was supposed to be disconnected 40 years ago. Harper, play the signal. Full volume. He activated the speakers. The static filled my headset, and beneath it I heard the voices more clearly. Distress calls from different years, different incidents, different emergencies, all transmitted on the same line, layered together like a recording that had been overwritten 1,000 times. And my voice, repeating, do not enter the corridor. Harper inspected the equipment. Dispatch, there's a tape reel here. Old analog. It's been running continuously. The tape's looped. A recording? Yeah, but it's not just playback. The system's actively receiving and recording. It's been capturing signals for decades. I reviewed the archived incident reports. Signal line Delta 7 was used during the 1960s and 70s for emergency communications. It was the primary line for tunnel responders, maintenance crews, and dispatchers during crises. But in 1989, during a tunnel collapse, the line was overwhelmed. Too many calls. Too many distress signals. The relay chamber couldn't handle the volume and the system overloaded. The line was decommissioned. The chamber was sealed, but the signals never stopped. They kept transmitting, looping through the abandoned relay, recording over each other, layering decade after decade, and now, the voices were bleeding through, including mine. Harper, shut down panel 4, disconnect the line. Copy. I heard him move toward the panel. The static intensified. The voices grew louder, and then from the speakers my voice, clear, urgent, undistorted. Do not shut down the line. If you cut the line, they'll be released. Harper froze. Dispatch, did you just say that? No, I didn't, but the voice continued. They've been contained in the signal. If the line goes dead, they'll find another way through. Harper stepped back. Dispatch, I don't think we should touch this. I agreed. We sealed the chamber. The line remains active. Panel 4 continues recording, capturing signals, layering voices. And every night I listen to signal line Delta 7. I hear the distress calls, the emergency transmissions, the voices of people who disappeared into the tunnels decades ago. And I hear my own voice warning me not to cut the line. I don't know when I recorded that message. I don't know if I've already lived the moment where I descended into that chamber, stood in front of panel 4, and transmitted the warning. But I know this. Some signals don't fade. They accumulate. They loop. They wait. And one day I'll hear the final transmission, the one where I enter the corridor, and the line goes dead, and whatever's been contained in the static will be released. I keep the line active. I keep listening, because some warnings aren't meant to prevent the future, they're meant to prepare you for it. I reviewed 6 months of transmission logs, searching for patterns, and I found one. Every anomaly, every phantom call, every distorted message originated from my terminal. Time-stamped years apart, all in my voice. I've been dispatching for the Metro Transit Authority for 11 years. I've answered thousands of calls, cleared thousands of trains, logged thousands of transmissions. The work is methodical, predictable, grounding. But over the past 6 months, something changed. The phantom calls, the looping messages, the trains that didn't exist, the voices that sounded like mine. On December 28th at 02 Sauer, I decided to review the logs. All of them. Every anomaly, every incident, every unexplained transmission. I started with the earliest entry, January 14th, 6 months ago. Train 4521, requesting clearance for track 9. A train that didn't exist, calling from a tunnel that was sealed in 2019, but the log showed the call originated from my terminal. Extension 4721, my voice. My authorization, I pulled the next entry, February 3rd. Crew 47B, requesting access to Tunnel 6. A crew that didn't exist, submitting maintenance reports signed with my initials. The requests originated from my terminal. I reviewed the next 30 incidents. The control room echo, the operator's loop, the CCTV figure, the announcer's voice, the emergency call, the power fault, the tunnel between lines, every single one traced back to my terminal. Every transmission, every authorization, every log entry, all recorded under my credentials, in my voice from my station. But I hadn't made those calls. I hadn't issued those authorizations, or had I? I pulled the timestamps. The entries spanned 11 years, not 6 months, 11 years. The earliest transmission was dated March 7th, 2014. My first week as a dispatcher, I listened to the recording, my voice younger but unmistakable. Train 6104 cleared for departure. Proceed to track 9 southbound. But I didn't remember making that call. I didn't remember clearing that train. I reviewed the incident reports. Train 6104, the operator who never signed off. The conductor who kept calling, reporting a strange passenger, a tunnel that didn't end. I'd cleared that train. On my first week, and the conductor never returned. I pulled the next entry, April 5th, 2015, Ridley Hammond. The announcer. I'd authorized his schedule updates, logged his transmissions. But the schedule he was reading didn't exist. I'd given him the printed schedule. I'd handed it to him personally, but I didn't remember doing it. I reviewed every entry, every anomaly, every phantom call, and they all connected. not as isolated incidents, but as a sequence, a progression spanning 11 years, and every entry led back to the same moment. December 28, 2025. 0217, now I checked the current timestamp. 0216, 1 minute. I pulled the final log entry, timestamped 0217, dated December 28, 2025. The transmission was blank. No audio, no text. Just a note. Final dispatch. Line disconnected. I stared at the screen, and then at 0217. My headset clicked. Static. Breathing. And then my own voice. Calm and measured. Stay on the line. I looked around the control room. I was alone. The door was closed. The monitors displayed the usual feeds. Empty platforms, dark tunnels, idle trains. But on the CCTV feed for the control room, I saw something. A figure, standing behind my chair, wearing a headset. Facing the monitors, I spun around. The room was empty, but on the screen the figure remained. And as I watched, they leaned forward as if speaking into the microphone, and I heard my voice in the headset. You've been dispatching them all along. The trains, the crews, the passengers. You've been sending them into the tunnels for 11 years. I stood up, backing away from the console. I didn't send anyone. I was responding to calls, following protocol. The voice continued, calm and patient. You were following the script, the same script you've been writing since the beginning. Every call, every authorization, every clearance. I checked the logs again. The timestamps, the patterns, every anomaly occurred at intervals. Predictable, cyclical, deliberate, like a schedule. And every call was initiated from my terminal, seconds before I received it. I wasn't responding to the calls. I was making them. I don't understand. The voice, and my voice, and replied, You've been here longer than you remember. This isn't your 11th year. It's your 100th, or your 1,000th. You've been dispatching the same trains, answering the same calls, following the same routes, over and over. I looked at the monitors. The feeds flickered, and for a moment I saw them. Not empty platforms, but crowded ones. Passengers waiting. Trains arriving. Conductors calling for clearance all at once. All overlapping. The system loops, the voice said. The trains loop. The tunnels loop. And so do you. I sat back down, hands shaking. How do I stop it? You don't. You keep dispatching. You keep answering. Because if you stop, the system collapses. The trains derail. The tunnels flood. The passengers are lost. But they're already lost. They're lost because you keep sending them. And you keep sending them because that's what dispatchers do. I reviewed the logs again. Every train I'd cleared. Every crew I'd authorized. Every call I'd answered. They were all real. All documented. All time-stamped. But none of them had ever completed their routes. They were all still out there. Looping through the tunnels. Waiting for clearance. Calling for guidance, and I kept answering. Night after night. Year after year. Because that's what I was here to do. I looked at the timestamp. 0221. The final log entry updated. Transmission ongoing. Dispatcher remains on the line. I put the headset back on, and I waited for the next call. At 0247, the line clicked. Dispatch, this is train 4521. Requesting clearance for track 9 southbound. The voice was calm, professional, familiar. I checked the log. Train 4521. The same train that called 6 months ago. The same train that called 11 years ago. The same train that would call tomorrow. Train 4521, clearance granted. Proceed to track 9. Acknowledge dispatch, proceeding. The line went quiet, and the next call came in, and the next, and the next. I answered them all. I cleared the trains. I authorized the crews. I logged the transmissions because that's what dispatchers do. We keep the system running. We keep the trains moving. We keep the lines open, even when the routes lead nowhere. Even when the passengers never arrive. Even when the calls come from tunnels that don't exist. We stay on the line because someone has to. And I've been here long enough to know. The system doesn't end just because you understand it. It ends when you stop answering. And I haven't stopped yet. Maybe I never will. Because somewhere beneath the city, in tunnels older than memory, the trains are still running, and the dispatchers are still calling, and we're all waiting for clearance to complete routes that were never meant to finish. I logged the final report. I closed the entry. I reset the board and I wait for the next call at 0247 every night forever. Because some shifts never end and some dispatchers never sign off, we just keep answering until the line goes dead. And even then, we're still listening, waiting for the static to resolve into a voice. A familiar voice saying, "Stay on the line." And we do. Because down here, beneath the city, time doesn't move forward, it loops, and we're all riding the same trains to the same stations that we never reach.